All right. Welcome to the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast. My name is Rami Lavi. That is Vince D'Amato. Vinny, my number one headline for you today. I love this headline so much. Ronel Blanco suspended. Did you see he gets called
I
out? He
did.
gets checked for the
Yeah.
sticky stuff because you know what? Wait, you could take the cheater off the Astros, but you can't take the Astros off the cheaters. I don't know how it works, but the Astros will always cheat. That's what we learned. And Ronel Blanco, it's like such a feel-good story, right? Oh, this guy, he's never good. And all of a sudden he's 30 years old and he's pitching a no-hitter and he's all of a sudden he's turned his career around. I wonder why. Well, turns out he's been using sticky stuff. Feel-good story. Out the window. Goodbye. Suspended 10 games and will probably never be good again. The Astros will always cheat, even when they're losing and they stink. So that's what we'll start the podcast today.
Rami, if you're not cheating, I don't think you're trying, right? I mean,
there's 29 other teams that are not trying. I mean,
yeah. Or they're just better at not getting caught. Ronel Blanco,
everyone was doing like steroids. That was one thing when everyone was doing PEDs, like it was the whole league. This is like exclusive to the freaking Astros constantly. My God, just don't cheat. Is it that hard for you guys?
Yeah, the Ronel Blanco one is sad, right? Because here we were, like, feel good story. You're absolutely right. And we know that Houston can develop pitchers, right? And we just thought, oh, this is another case. This is another gem that they created. Nah, maybe, but right now we gotta see him come back and prove it for longer.
Yeah, so if you have shares of him, I would just say, yeah, I don't know what to expect of him the rest of the way. If you want to sell high, if you want to try and convince someone, hey, it was one game that he was using, I don't know, but that's definitely a storyline. Another storyline. How much is Jack Leiter? He's just not good at baseball.
Isn't that crazy how some people just forget? Yeah, they just forget how to play.
Yeah, quadruple A player. Him and Jackson Holiday.
Yeah, we've seen some of Joe Adell. I thought was a quad A player, but here he is on a tear a little bit too. So yeah, I mean Jack Leiter's an interesting one, but it's a long season, right? A lot of ups and downs. You got to weather the storms. I mean, if I would have panicked when Corbin Carroll was taking a dump, and he still is.
I think it was actually one of the things I talked about in the last episode. Was like, hey, I talked about him and Lourdes Gurriel also. Yeah,
it's still early, and I'm gonna pull up some Corbin's his underlying stuff because I'm sure it's ugly. Right? I'm sure it's horrible, and yeah, I mean his bat speed's the only thing that's really helping him. He's got a good K rate, good walk rate. So he's got a good approach. His approach stuff is good, but he's just not hitting the ball hard at all. So, yeah, a lot to dive into though. Let's hit some who's hot. Yeah.
I got one more headline.
We got more notes. Okay, sorry.
I got one more because I tweeted this at you the other day. The bat speed stat, the new stat. I'm sure you're all over it. This is a classic nerd stat. You know who has the slowest bat speed in the league, by the way? I don't know if I told you this.
Depends on how many plate appearances, but I think John Birdie was pretty low, and Kevin Biggio.
I think of the qualified, what I saw or what I heard was Luis Suarez. So,
oh yes, I did hear that as well. But I also, the reason why I thought it was Biggio is because I heard that Stanton's swing, right, is about 80 miles an hour,
which is the fastest in the league by far.
Yes, but it's also almost as fast as Biggio's exit velocity, like his average exit velocity, which is horrible. He's swinging the bat just as fast as Biggio is hitting the ball. Like
that's unbelievable. But that's
horrible. Yeah.
No, but it's Giancarlo Stanton. Like this guy is ridiculous. This guy is. We know that about him. It doesn't always translate to hits. He doesn't always stay healthy. He can't run.
Well, that's why. Right? Maybe he should take something off of his 80 mile an hour swing, right?
But he did, right? He lost the weight. He's like a slimmer version of himself. This is like the slowest he's been swinging the bat in his career.
That's true. That's wild.
He's just up there. I mean, it's not even just an aggression thing. It's like his wrists are so quick. Like there's something like that is like that speed is insane. I mean, it's like it's a strength thing. It's unbelievable.
It's like a twitch muscle kind of thing. Like he's just spazzes so
and the
quick.
way he stands there so still and just throws his hands at it. I mean, you wonder why it's that fast, but it's just an interesting stat to keep an eye on. We'll see if it correlates to anything in fantasy baseball, and then we can translate that. But yeah, who's hot? I have 3. And I want to kick it off with a guy who we haven't mentioned yet on this podcast, I don't think. And it is sad and is a disservice that we've done to everyone. And maybe he's a sell high candidate. I'm not sure. I'll give you the numbers first. Let's see if you can guess who this is.
Okay.
And you will be able to because you follow baseball.
I don't know. We'll see.
6-1, a 2.54 ERA in 8 starts, 61 strikeouts in 49 2/3 innings, and a .86 whip. And real quick, I'd like to give you I don't have it up in front of me. I want to give you his quality starts. Here we go. Quality starts. I don't see it. All right. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Is it the former White Sox pitcher?
Former White Sox and Red Sox. Chris
Oh,
Sale goes to freaking
Oh.
Atlanta. Who'd you think I
I
was
thought it
talking
was
about?
Dylan Cease. I was
No,
thinking Dylan
no.
Cease. Chris
Yeah,
Sale,
when you said
yes.
former
I
White
just-
Sox, I was like, I don't know if people. I guess his best years were on the White Sox.
right.
He stunk on Boston. Imagine you're Boston. He stinks every year that he plays for you. I guess they won a World Series, so you take it.
Right.
In 2018, he was good during that stretch. He's 35 years old with the Atlanta Braves now, and it's like he's reinvented himself. Again, the number 61 strikeouts in 49 innings, only 36 walks, and 14 earned runs. He's only given up only 36 hits.
36
only
walks. I was like,
Yeah,
well, that's a lot of walks.
Only 36 hits, 8 walks. 8 walks. The whip is under 0.9. Like what? Chris Sale in 2024. He's 100 years old.
Yeah. It's never been a question about stuff with Sales. Sales always had the stuff. It's just, can he do it for a long period of time and stay healthy?
But not even that, because the last few years there was more than that. I mean,
yeah,
the last few
he had
years
a little bit of a few bumps.
Yeah, he wasn't this the last few years.
And it was tough because I had to watch him on what's today? Wednesday. I watched him on Monday against the Cubs, and he absolutely dominated. He looked disgusting.
That's what had me think of it.
It was horrible.
I was listening to Susan Wallman. I was producing the Yankee game yesterday, and I'm listening to Susan, and they're doing like the around the league or whatever, the diamond, whatever they call it, and they're talking about Chris Sale. I'm like, what? I was shocked. I was like, how has this not come up on our show that he's having an incredible season? Now, you might say maybe he's a sell high candidate. I don't know. But oh man, the Celtics advanced. That sucks for me. I mean, obviously the Cavs benched everyone, but it sucks for me because now the next game's gonna be really late on Friday night. Whatever.
What a transition.
Oh man. All right. That's my first hot. Who's your hot?
Sure. So my first hot is I tried to, and I don't know if you did this as well. I tried to attack guys that we don't normally talk about. Although one of them we do.
We don't talk
my
about
first one. My first one has the same first name. And let's see if you can guess who it is. His last 5 games, he is 10 for 20 at the plate, and he has a season slash line of 359, 423, 656. That's right, 656 slug with 5 home runs and 3 steals, and he's only played in 17 games. Any guesses?
Well, the thing with that is, I gave you a starting pitcher. Like I feel like that's easier. I don't know.
Okay, I gave you his first name. What's
Chris?
Finish it though, Christian.
Oh, okay. Christian
Outfielder.
Vasquez.
Christian Yelich, baby.
Christian Yelich. Oh,
Christian Yelich has been
giving me
fire.
like either infield or outfield. That's what you should.
Okay, sorry, you're right.
And his name is not the same name. That's insane that you would think Chris
Sale, Christian, right?
No, I would never. I'm thinking Chris. I'm over here guessing like Chris. If you said Christian, I probably would have gotten it.
Same thing, right?
No, not at all. Not close.
So yeah, Yelich, since coming off the IL, he went 5 in his first game, but since then he's played 5 games and hitting 500. And he, again, 17 total games for 5 home runs and 3 steals. Don't forget about Christian Yelich. He's hot. He's back. And I don't get how the Brewers are so good, but they're just rolling. They're doing their thing. And it's kind of sad. It's kind of scary. They've done really well without Counsell. I thought for sure they'd fall off a little bit, but Yelich is back, and now they're really looking to do some damage.
Yeah, I think that's important, obviously. Again, we talked about Craig Counsell like he was some sort of incredible like genie, right? That anything he touches turns to gold. I didn't fully understand that. Like in New York, I work here, obviously, so I can only tell you what I see in this market. Met fans were furious that they didn't get him. I'm like, what has Craig Counsell ever done as a manager? Like, no, really. Like, oh, they got David Stearns and Craig Counsell. What do you want to be? Like the Milwaukee Brewers? Like, that's the goal. That's the gold standard right now. So whatever. I thought people overreacted to that. My second hot. Here's a name that we say a lot, and we talked about him a lot, but I have to mention him because he hit his 11th home tonight, and he's just been on a freaking tear. That's Aaron Judge. I mean, when you look at the season numbers for Aaron Judge, you know, the OPS is 860. He's got 32 walks. He's walking at a ridiculous clip. His on base is 370, so it's not like it's low. It's not as high as it would be. Like, and he's on pace right now to hit 4 home runs. And he's still driving a ton of runs, right? He has, I think now 28 RBIs or whatever, and 23 runs scored. So this guy had a slow start for 6 weeks. He couldn't hit. And yet his numbers are right there. Like, other than the batting average, his numbers are right there to be on pace where he needs to be by the end of the year. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And we knew this when we looked at some of his underlying stuff a few weeks ago, and he was really at the bottom of the barrel. We looked, on his podcast, and we saw everything on his page, his Savant page, bright red, right? He's hitting the ball hard, he's hitting it well, he's seeing it well. It just didn't translate in the surface. And sometimes that happens. That's baseball. And here we go. Here it is, right? This is what we've been waiting for. And I'm glad you continue to call it out, because you're absolutely right. And don't sell low on Aaron Judge, right? And I think you've learned that. And if there's still a buying window, which I don't know if there is, I would be all over it, right? If some owner is he's injury prone, I don't want to take the risk, and they think they're selling high, no, I would swoop in right now.
He's 5 for 5. He's 4 for 4 tonight. A home run, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. And then the 7 games prior to tonight, so this is not including tonight, he was 7 for 22, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 5 runs scored, 444 on base. Again, his season numbers, if you just look at season numbers, 11 home runs, 29 RBIs, 24 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, 370 on base, or probably higher than that now, like 380 on base. Like, he's right there. You know what I mean? Like, The numbers are right where you'd want Aaron Judge's numbers to be. So it's pretty, and that just goes to show you what he's been doing pretty much the last 2 weeks. So I in my league, I know my friend who has him. He's the commissioner. He will never, I think he's the commissioner. I don't know. He's my friend who invited me to the league. I'm not sure if he's the commissioner. He'll never relinquish Judge. He was a believer the whole time Judge was struggling. He's like, Judge is going to be good. Judge is going to be great. Judge is going to be great. Now Judge is great.
My next hot, or who's hot, is a pitcher who I had told you to buy in the offseason. And he had a start early in the year where he gave up 6 earned runs. And ever since then, his ERA has trended down. So I think that 6 earned has kept his ERA up high and made people think he's worse than he is. And that's Reese Olson for the Detroit Tigers. Over the season, now his numbers look a lot better. Even with that 6 earned run start, he still has a 2.09 ERA and a .993 WHIP in 8 starts. So he's been phenomenal, especially in his last 6 games. He's only given up 5 earned runs. And if you were not buying on Reese Olson, you should be, because he's shown nothing but the ability to get guys out, and he's going deep into games. He just threw 8 innings in his last start against Miami. And of course, the Tigers lose 1-0 because they can't get offense going for him. But he is the real deal. Don't let, if you play in a wins league, I would be all over him, because a lot of people might be thinking, oh, he's not getting any wins. Trust me, those wins will come. He's going to continue to pitch. Some luck's going to roll his way. And Reese Olson is scorching hot right now, and a guy that his ADP is going to skyrocket next year.
All right, I got another one for you, and this is a weird one. Here's a guy who you could probably pick up a little bit off the radar, like we talked about, and they've been fire as a team. They've been on fire. The Colorado Rockies, Ezekiel Tovar, their shortstop. In the last week, he's got a 375 on base, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 5 runs scored, and a stolen base. But he's got 11 hits. He's close to the top of the league in hits over the last week. 11 hits in the last 7 games. So again, his season overall is not great. 315 on base, 5 home runs, 17 RBIs, 18 runs scored. It's decent, 4 stolen bases. But for a team that's been really hot, you want to ride that wave, ride that team, ride Ezequiel Tovar, because he's been one of the key cogs in that lineup for why Colorado has been winning so many games lately.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think I would lean towards selling high only because of his strikeout rate. But I will say long term, I think Tovar is a good buy. I mean, he's only 22 years old, right? Like he's a baby. And
Dynasty leagues.
he came up when he came up too. And this is why I'm not really shocked that he's doing this well, because when he came up, it was kind of like him and Volpe, right? It was like, who's going to take that next step? Volpe obviously has certainly taken that over, but
I mean,
for a while
it's
they were
funny because
neck and neck.
Volpe's overall numbers are great and he started off great and he's hot now. He had a real down stretch for about a month in the middle there.
Sure, that happens, right? That's baseball.
Yeah.
My next guy is a guy that we do talk about, or we have talked about, I want to say within the last 2 weeks. And it's a guy that I told you to buy that I think you should be buying. And I'm going to take a victory lap, even though season's not over and his season numbers still don't look that great. But that is Alex Bregman for the Houston Astros. The Astros have started to pick it up a little bit, right? They're starting to look a little bit like their old selves. And Bregman in particular, in his last 6 games, he's 10 for 24, right? He's got 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, and he's brought his season average up from 189 to 225 in those 6 games, and his OBP from 268 to 293. So slowly but surely, right? He's trending upwards. It's a long season. His underlying stuff, there's nothing concerning or alarming, or that would make you think that this is it, right? This is the downfall of Bregman. So yeah, Bregman's heating up a little bit. And again, I implore you to buy if you can, if there's a window still.
Alex Bregman was taken off of my list of buy lows. That's how good he's been, because he I don't know if he still is a buy low. Maybe if you could still get him.
I would say so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think
a lot of people are worried. Yeah.
All right. So I have 3 not hots, but they're really kind of 2. The first one is Alex Verdugo. A lot of people saying, "Oh, he's been hitting so well since and tonight, of course, he's 2 for 2. My God." So great prediction by me.
Yeah.
But or he was 2 for 2 to start the game. But prior to that, he was 1 for his last 20. I think that one happened to have been a 2-run double, but he was 1 for his last 20 prior to that. So not great last week for Alex Verdugo. Still hitting better in the 4-hole for the Yankees. He's only owned in about 50% of the leagues. You think, like, we saw Soto carrying the team, then Judge carrying the team. Now, like, if Judge, Soto, and Volpe start hitting at the same time and Verdugo's still batting cleanup in that lineup, he's going to have some opportunities to do some real damage. So I would still pick him up. He just hasn't been good in the last week.
Sure. And I do want to just quick honorable mention, Seth Lugo has been phenomenal. Great ADP value, and same with Shota Imanaga, right? I mean, two pitchers that have just been absolute studs. So wanted to throw their names in here, even though we didn't do a deeper dive. But Seth Lugo and Imanaga have been phenomenal as well.
All right.
Are we on the knots?
Yeah, we're not hot. Yeah. I'm glad you brought
I'm sorry, I realized because I realized that you did Verdugo, but I was like, I didn't mention them. So
that's fine. We put it this way, without foreshadowing too much, I didn't forget them.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure. Okay, sorry. I was questioning my leader here. I was like, are we doing this? Are we jumping ahead? Okay, my first not hot is a guy who I was off of, and he kind of proved me wrong to start off the year. But now I get to take my little victory lap, and that is CJ Abrams. He has not been the guy who he started off as. Since April 21st, he's got just 1 home run, right? Everyone was gloating about, oh, the power's finally here. And I saw it, right? His exit velocities were up. Everything looked good. But since it has trended back down, in May, his slash line is 196, 222, 235. He's got no home runs in May and just 1 steal. And since April 23rd, his season average was at 316. So it peaked there. And now 3 weeks later, it's at 261. So he still has a below average exit velocity. He's still not doing a lot of the things that I would want to see if I was going to anticipate he's going to hit 25 home runs. again, I think it's probably more likely that he ends up with less than 20 than he does over 20. And he's got 7 so far. So I'm anticipating, maybe a couple per month or something like that, a couple home runs on average. But I am not anticipating that big early season power breakout to continue. And he's been just ice cold at the plate so far, or lately, I should say.
Well, I got 2 for you, but they're on the same team. I've done this in the past. So let's just call it the Toronto Blue Jays are not hot as a team. And then also their individual players, specifically George Springer and Dalton Varsho.
Mm-hmm.
Dalton Varsho, 2 for his last 20 at the plate. On the year, he's not great. The last 2 weeks, he's only got 1 home run in the last 2 weeks, 6 for 36, a 268 on base in the last week. He was 0 for 4 today. So Dalton Varsho really not playing well. And then on the season for George Springer, a 201 batting average, only 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. Yikes. So also incredibly slow start for a team that struggled. And I keep telling you that I think this offense will come alive at some point. Like it has to. I saw Vlad had a few hits and he's maybe trying to get going a little bit.
Yeah.
But those 2 guys, Varsho and Springer, have been ice cold.
Funny that you mentioned it. George Springer was one of my ice cold guys. Season slash line does not look good, and the underlying stuff looks okay. I will say, so his current batting average is 201, and his XBA, or his expected batting average, is 251. So maybe there's some sort of improvement coming. Not crazy about it, but I don't think it's long before Toronto moves him out of that leadoff spot, especially because, and I've seen a lot of people tweeting this, Davis Schneider has been on a tear and he's got an OBP of 366. So, I'm not the biggest Davis Schneider fan, but at some point you have to say, hey, this guy's hot. This guy's hitting. Put him over. I don't care how much you're paying George Springer. I don't care what his history is like. He's not hitting right now. Let him figure it out somewhere else.
So the Astros suck no matter where they're playing.
Good one. But I do have a little, I'll give a little hint for later in the prospect report. Maybe there's some help coming for the Toronto Blue Jays in the future, in the near future. But my last who's not hot is a catcher who a lot of people thought maybe, again, a power breakout was coming. He had a high floor to hit, high good field to hit. And that is Gabriel Moreno for the Arizona Diamondbacks, the catcher for the Diamondbacks. One of the highest floors that we've seen from a catcher as a hitter, just a pure hitting standpoint. But he just hasn't been the guy that people wanted him to be. He's only got 8 home runs in his career in the regular season. And funny enough, he has an 8 in the playoffs and spring training, right? In a super condensed, high, I guess maybe not spring training, high intense and low intensity, but throughout the length of a season, he just doesn't have the power that we need. And he's showing it. He's got no barrels, right? 4% barrel rate is not good, and just 1 home run to show for it this year. So I'm not buying Gabriel Moreno. I think he actually probably hurts you quite a bit in the power department, and it's not like his batting average has been off the charts either. So Moreno is a guy who is not panned out. I know he's got a few hits over the last week or so, but I put him on here because it's kind of like where you drafted him and maybe what you were anticipating is just not what you've gotten from him so far.
Yeah. So that'll do it for the hot and not, who's hot and who's not. Now we move on to the buy low and sell high segment, where we tell you who maybe is either for some reason you can get them at a lower value than they're going to be worth in the future, and who we can sell high on, someone who has extremely great value now that maybe won't continue to keep up that pace. So I'm going to start with my buy low, Paul Goldschmidt, who is having a rough start to the season, was not expected to be this bad. I know he's not what he used to be, in the Arizona prime days. He's not expected to be this bad. So why should I buy him? Here's why you should buy low on him. He's going to be traded. He's going to find a new home. And when he does, he's going to rake because he's going to be in a playoff pennant race, whatever it is, late in the season with a competing team that's not the Cardinals. And he's going to be reinvigorated there in a better lineup. He'll probably be sent to a place where he could be in the middle of the lineup. And he's going to start hitting. It's going to, you've seen that happen before. Guys go to new places, where they're thrust into a pennant race, and all of a sudden it's exciting again, and they start hitting in the middle of a lineup where there's better protection and there's more guys, and the lineup is, goes around more, and it's a longer lineup. I fully expect to see that from Paul Goldschmidt. And so I would buy low now on Paul Goldschmidt. I think he'll be better. A, I don't think he's this bad. And B, I think he'll be in a better situation.
I like it. I was trying to pull up to see, is his contract over by the end of this year? Do you know? Did you?
Let me
Because
check that.
I got it right here as well. So Paul Goldschmidt, he's a free agent in 2025. So yeah, this is his last year. So I think that's a good call out. If the Cardinals realize, hey, we're not gonna compete this year, we're not looking too good, I think that's,
Yep.
there's a lot of
Unrestricted
potential.
free agent. Yep.
Yeah. So I think
I
that's a good call.
I knew that he was, like, because I saw his name in trade rumors, so I knew it was either this year or next year. Yeah.
And I know that the Cardinals have a guy, Lucan Baker, who's down in the minor leagues, who had tore it up last year. I haven't seen his stats this year, but I think they have enough guys to make that work. And obviously they have a plethora of outfielders as well. My buy low is a guy that is going to make you go, are you sure you're buying low on him? I feel like this is a sell high. And I understand the case for the sell high, but I am not selling high. I am buying high. And that is Christopher Morel of the Chicago Cubs. I'm buying Morel because I think what we've seen so far from Morel, he's got 9 home runs. What we've seen from him is only the beginning. I really think that he's got another level to unlock. And just by looking at his Savant page, you can tell why. His XBA is 40 points higher. So he's expected to be hitting 40 points better than his 219 average, right? His X slug is 70 points higher. So his expected slug is supposed to be better than what he's doing. His chase rate is coming down from last year. He's walking at 11% rate, which is phenomenal. He's only striking out at a 22% rate, right? These are a lot of concerns. The strikeout rate, the high whiff, they were big concerns. And I think people see his 219 average and go, oh, that's just who he is. I actually think there's a little bit more. I think that could be closer to a 250 hitter. And if you're getting the type of power that he brings, because clearly, I mean, the expected stats are showing like this isn't a fluke, right? And we know, if you talked about the average bat speed, right, or the bat speed, he's 6th in major leagues, right? So he swings the bat quickly. He's, got a lot of pop. He's shown it. He's got 9 home runs so far. So I fully believe that there's another level for Christopher Morel. So yeah, I would think you might be able to find an owner who's like, hey, I think, this is it. This is his peak. I'm going to sell and cash out. I'm probably buying because I think there's more for him.
Man, well, if only we were in a league together where I owned Christopher Morel, because I used him as my sell high.
Yeah,
I did.
right.
Yeah, with you not here, I used Christopher Morel as my sell high. I kind of did it also because he's a Cub, and you weren't here. But yeah, I was totally on the opposite side of that.
Sure.
Like you said, all those underlying stats show you that maybe his production shouldn't be as high as it's been. And so, yeah,
No, I think the opposite. I think his production should be better than what it's been so far. I think there's more, and he's got speed.
I think you're saying though that his production is surprising considering some of the underlying things.
Yeah, I think it should be better. Yep.
Okay. All right, I got what you're saying. All right. My sell low or sell high. Is a guy you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo is the number 15 ranked fantasy baseball player currently. In all of fantasy baseball on Yahoo, he is number 15 ranked. 14 guys better than him. That's it. Like, this guy was like, what, the number 600 ranked fantasy baseball player coming into this year?
It wasn't that bad. His 23 wasn't that bad.
I know, but I get it. Look, Kansas City, what they've done with their pitching, all that, it's fine. He's not this. I'm sorry. Like, even if for the rest of the year he's a top 100 fantasy baseball player, he's not the 15th best fantasy baseball player. And if somebody's willing to give you the value of a top tier starting pitcher, because that's what he's been an ace. If somebody's willing to give you ace value for Seth Lugo, take it and run. Because I just don't believe that Seth Lugo is going to be an ace the rest of the way. Not like this.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I can't disagree with you on that. I'm a big Seth Lugo fan, but
I'm a
yeah,
huge fan, but
he's not a
it's
top.
not that.
He's not an ace, unfortunately, I think long term. So I think that's a good call out. And that's a good point, right? The sell highs are not necessarily guys that we don't like or aren't necessarily in on, but maybe they're overperforming, what we think they should be. So
I say
I
this
think
every
that's a good call out.
week. Yeah, if somebody's willing to give you value that's higher than what they're actually worth, it doesn't matter. Even if you think they'll be good in the long run, he's not going to have a 1.66 ERA, and a 0.96
Mhm.
WHIP. I mean, his strikeouts are down for what, it's where you expect them, 48 strikeouts in 59 innings. So he's not getting you a ton of strikeouts. And if those numbers just go up a little bit, the ERA and the WHIP, then all of a sudden it's like, what's he actually giving you? It's not like he's on a team that's going to win a ton of games in Kansas City. So, the 6-1 record right now looks really good if you're in a win league. The ERA right now, 1.66, best in the league, maybe. But
Mhm.
again, long term, I don't think there's a ton of value there.
So my sell high is a guy who's probably not rostered in your league. He may not be. He's rostered in 35%. And my advice to you would be pick this guy up and see if you can flip him or, see what you can get for him. Pair him with someone else in a bigger trade. And that's Ryan Weathers for the Miami Marlins. He's a pitcher for the Marlins. And the reason why is his last 3 starts have been phenomenal. He's got 3 straight quality starts where he's thrown
Do you
20
want to know
innings
what his
total.
roster percentage is in Yahoo leagues?
It's probably like 5%, 10%,
6%.
6%. Yeah. But look at his last 3 games: 6
I
innings,
see it.
6 innings, 8 innings, and 3 and 0 earned runs. So, not big strikeout stuff. But my point is like if you can get someone to look at those last 3 games and say, hey, there's something here. This guy's 24 years old, right? He's still, young, and maybe this is him kind of showing some upside, and maybe it is to some degree, right? I don't think he's a complete fluke or complete wash. And maybe, you keep an eye on him as a streamer at some point throughout the season and then try to flip him. But I think there's enough value here to, especially maybe in 15 team leagues. Yeah, you could flip him for something. I absolutely think he's valuable enough to do that. So Ryan Weathers is a guy. I think his next start's against Milwaukee. I'm not crazy about starting him there, but if you want to pick him up and spot start him for some bad games and try to flip him, I think that's what I would be trying to do with him right now.
It's interesting you mentioned that because coming up we have the our league update, and I think we'll skip the league update for now, but tell you that moving forward we're going to change the league update a little bit. Ryan. You said Ryan Weathers. I don't know why. Okay, Vince
Me.
is going to try and help me win my league, and Ryan Weathers could be one of those guys who I could pick up and improve. So I'm middle of the pack in my league right now. I'm trying to get better. I think I have some value, and that's exactly the kind of tip. So moving forward, instead of the league update, what we're going to do is I'm going to come with a predicament every week, and Vince is going to help me solve my problems and help me win my league. So Vince, your advice to me right now is pick up Brian Weathers, let him pitch pretty well, and then try and flip him in a week or 2.
Yeah, I mean,
All right,
if
that's
you
your
have the
first.
roster space, yeah, we'll have to deconstruct your roster, look at maybe what you need a little bit. But yeah, I'm just it's something to keep on your radar. Brian Weathers pitched well. If he
All
throws
right,
well against Milwaukee, you can definitely sell him.
I'll have to look out for that. All right, before we get to the mailbag, and we have some cool mailbag things to talk about today as well, give me your prospect report.
So I'm going to do the prospect report a little bit differently right now. I am going to give you, Rami, a little bit of a rapid fire here, right? Because there's a ton that's kind of happening right on that fringe of MLB and AAA level, quad A, if you want to call it, right? There's a lot happening. So I'm going to do a quick rundown of
Jason
five
Dominguez
different guys.
started his.
Jason Dominguez is one of them, right? He's
Hey,
coming back. And good timeline, right? This is exactly what we anticipated, late June, if anything, right? So this is probably a little bit early for him. So that's a great start to hear. My first one is Heston Kjerstad is sent back down, right?
I saw
And
that.
what an MLB debut. He only had 14 plate appearances and he was up for 2 weeks, right?
It made no sense.
Just,
It was more than 2 weeks. It was like 3 weeks at
yep,
least. It made no sense.
yep. And I don't understand why they were do this. They're teasing us. We all want to see Heston kind of blow the doors off the MLB, which we know he's capable of. But for now, he is going to just go back down and rake in AAA, which is honestly better. I'd rather have him in AAA raking than on the MLB just sitting on the bench, right? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but what do you do with him fantasy wise? Do you now cut him? Like you probably could pick him up again later.
Yeah, you cut him.
I
He's
did.
still in that, he's still in that flyer territory, which it just takes an injury for him to come up. And there's a couple other flyers that I'll mention later, but yeah, he's in the same boat as those other guys that I'll mention. My next guy is Robert Gasser. He is a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, and I talked him up a little bit in the offseason, and he finally made a couple appearances, and in 11 innings and 2 starts so far, he's allowed just 1 earned run. So he's proven that he deserves to stay, and I think he absolutely will stay. He's got good stuff. Robert Gasser, if he's still available, I think you should go grab him. I grabbed him in our league, Rami, and I fully anticipate him being a good pitcher moving forward, a good SP3, with SP2 upside for sure. My next guy is Kyle Manzardo. I told you to pick him up, and wow, that did not go well. I don't know if you've been following any Manzardo stuff, but he's only got 25 at-bats, right? So not a huge sample. But in those 25 at-bats, he's got 9 strikeouts, and he's no slugging, no home runs. And it's just kind of weird because this is not how I expected his MLB debut to go. He's a very high floor guy. Right? He's got a very good field to hit. Usually those guys transition a little bit better, but he did not. And, that happens. If you're still holding him, I understand if you want to drop him, if you want to wait. Maybe he'll get it going. But he's certainly not making a case to stick in the majors, right? At this point, when Quan comes back or even sooner, he will more than likely get sent down if he's continuing to hit like this. So that's Kyle
But you
Manzardo.
got Joey Loperfido, though.
What about Joey Loperfido?
I mean, 323 average, 364 on base. He's been good.
Yeah, Loperfido's been great. I'm happy that he, that's kind of what I was hoping Manzardo would come up and do. Was kind of what Joey Loperfido is doing now. But my next guy is Orelvis Martinez. So this is what I mentioned the Blue Jays earlier. Could be some reinforcements. Orelvis Martinez is that guy. He's a second baseman, but he is a power hitting second baseman. What kind of power, you ask? Well, Rami, he's got 10 home runs in 36 games so far this season in AAA. So he's mashing. He could provide a huge boost to an offense in Toronto that's struggling. And I think he's a good stash, right? If you got an extra roster space, or you're looking for a potential second baseman, maybe you don't have the best second baseman option right now or middle infield, I think Orelvis is a good stash. And then minor league guys that are continuing to rake, and this is where I kind of keep Heston Kjerstad with. I would say Orelvis is probably a good stash as well with this next guy, Junior Caminero, who the reason why I think this guy is a good stash now, especially now, is because he made his start at second base. If anyone who doesn't know, Junior Caminero is a third baseman. Why would you move him to second base? Well, maybe they want him to play some second base, right? Let's see you get comfortable with other positions, trying to get his bat somewhere in the lineup, right? And so Junior Caminero
call up loading
is absolutely, these are the tall tale signs of a call up and in the makings. And Caminero is certainly in that realm. And when he started second base, he went 3 for 3 with a home run. So he continues to rake. He just does nothing but rake. So go get Caminero. And then my last guy, James Wood. This is old news, but he's on a 10-game hitting streak right now. And not only is it a 10-game hitting streak, Rami, it is the 10-game hitting streak. He is hitting 474, 544, 921. That's his slash line. He's got 5 home runs over these 10 games. He's got a 20-game on-base streak. He's just absolutely mashing. The reason why I would say he may not be a good stash is because Washington has made it very clear that they're not really willing to move their timeline on him. It still could be a while for which is just absolutely nuts to think about, considering he's, just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. Maybe there's a call up, but I wouldn't necessarily think it's any time over the next couple weeks. I think Caminero and Orelvis Martinez get calls up before James Wood do. James Woods does. But anyways, keep your eye on James Wood. Maybe he's a guy that you stash and try to flip at some point, but just absolutely mashing the ball. And that is my prospect report.
Good stuff, dude. Okay, so now we have something interesting. Here's what we're going to be doing. Mailbag Mock Trades. So you are going to be sending us, because we've seen this before now. People have been sending in their trades, and it gave me the idea that we should be doing trades every week. It'll kind of be like we'll pit two guys against each other, and Vince will give us their value. Who would he trade? Who would he trade for who? And so I have one, and then we got a couple emailed in, and you can email them to us. You can just email the show, or you can write them, leave them on YouTube or wherever in the comments, and ask whatever questions you have. And this way we can answer them on the next episode. We can answer your trade questions. So here we go. The first one is from Matt. He says O'Neill Cruz or Christopher Morel, two guys that one of them you talked about earlier. We talked about earlier with Christopher Morel. Which one the rest of the way? If you are an O'Neill Cruz owner, are you making that trade for Christopher Morel and vice versa?
So, yeah, I think if you're an O'Neill Cruz owner, if you can trade for a guy like Christopher Morel, and because here's the thing, O'Neill Cruz is thought of as a top, 75, top 50 guy. I don't think Christopher Morel is all that different from O'Neill Cruz. I really don't. And especially like I mentioned earlier,
You're really
Morel,
way too high on him.
I will see. Morel's got more home runs, right? I think O'Neill Cruz has a few more stolen bases, and his average looks a little better for now. But again, underlying stuff says Morel's going to get better and better. And I don't understand why it's a huge gap. So my thought is if you can get Morel plus another piece, whether you need a pitcher, a bullpen arm, or pair O'Neill Cruz and get something bigger, I wouldn't be that far away from that. I'm saying I don't know if I would do a straight up 1-for-1. It's still probably leading O'Neill Cruz, but
I would say so.
Certainly if you can get Morel plus a little something extra, you got to at least consider it.
All right. The next one is from Jackson. He says he wants to trade Cody Bellinger, who we know has been hurt. I know, obviously, he's my team. And he wants to potentially trade him for Marcell Ozuna from the Braves. I'll always call him Ozuna from the Braves. You know the video, right? You know the reference? No. Oh, they when he got arrested, that like the whatever the cop camera video came out, like the what do they wear, like
like the video
dash cam, whatever,
right?
And he's like, you know who I am? I'm Ozuna from the Braves. I'm Ozuna from the Braves, and just came off as such like a douchey move. Like I don't know, it was the worst. Anyway, so Ozuna from the Braves or Cody Bellinger. Would you trade for Ozuna if you have Cody Bellinger?
So this is an interesting one, right? If I have Cody Bellinger, and this is kind of similar to the O'Neill Cruz stuff, I think Ozuna is massively underrated. Ozuna is right now the only guy on the Braves who's hitting. And, obviously as a Cubs fan and watching Cody Bellinger every day, I'm a big Cody Bellinger fan. I think, I don't necessarily think what he did last year was a total fluke. I think he's a great hitter. But if I wouldn't do a straight up. I'd lean Bellinger in a straight up trade, but it's really not that far off. Ozuna is going to deliver some terrific counting stats as the Braves, because again, the Braves haven't been the Atlanta Braves offense that we've been expecting. As that offense picks it up, his numbers are just going to look gaudy. And
guess who's not hitting 54 home runs this year?
Well, we knew he wasn't going to hit 54.
No.
When did I say he was going to hit 54?
No, you said this is who he is. This is who he's going to be. No, I'm going to pull up the receipts.
Pull up the receipt for that one.
Matt Olson, 35 home run guy, maybe. That's what he's been.
His last 3 games, 2 for 4, 2 for 3, 1 for 4 with a home run, 4 RBIs, heating up, maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
54 home runs.
Is Pete Alonso?
Hey, Pete Alonso's been struggling. I'll give you
that.
Okay.
I was gonna say you
but
said
have
what,
they
50?
been that? But have they been like $20 apart in auction value?
No, not at all. Yeah. So yeah, I lean Bellinger, but if you can get a good second piece, Ozuna.
Okay, I have Alec Bohm,
okay,
and he's been arguably one of the best hitters in baseball, though he's cooled off the last week or so.
Sure.
Do I trade him? I'm scared to trade him. I really think like this is a guy coming into his own and he's really good. And the reason I picked him, and it's also kind of like a selfish thing where like I was high on him in the offseason. I was high on him coming into the year. Like I'm happy to be right on him. Like he's one of my guys. There's always those plant your flag guys. And now I have him and he's actually paying off. But somebody offered me Alex Bregman for him. Bregman has the track record of just being great. And you know that offense is going to pick it up. Like I don't know how I say no to that trade. And yet I kind of feel like I want to say no.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you if you said no. It's a really close one because actually, I mean, when I look at Alec Boehm's underlying stuff, it looks pretty good, and it looks a lot better than Bregman's. Does that mean it's going to stick? I'm not 100% sure. I do think that Boehm's got plenty of potential, and I think we're starting to see that potential blossom. He's 27, so but again, I feel like this is why I put Bregman as a buy low. I almost feel like if he sent that trade, you could maybe get another second piece, and then we're talking, right? Again, depending on what your needs are, maybe you throw, make it a 2 for 2. That way you can get some good value back. I certainly think Bregman
I
is
need home runs, and that's where Bohm hurts me, right?
sure. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, boom with
And
four
Bregman can
bombs,
help
but
me there.
Bregman again, yeah, but Bregman doesn't have many so far this. So I think whoever sent that, right, they're probably thinking, oh well, they're going to buy the name, and you kind of are, but at the same time, you're going to buy a guy who, look, I think this is Bregman's floor. Like this is like everything has bottomed out. I think there's nowhere to go but up. And even if
And he could be
he,
a trade candidate if
Mhm.
they continue to bottom out.
Yeah, they did say though the Astros GM did say that there's really no world in which they're selling at the deadline. They did come out and say that. So
Okay. This is my favorite line ever.
sure,
I say this
what
all
we
the
got?
time.
Yeah.
You know who never has to say blank is not getting traded? Guys who aren't getting traded. When guys aren't getting traded, you never have to say it. It's only ever said we're not trading X about guys who end up being traded.
So you think Bregman's going to get traded?
That doesn't mean they're guaranteed to be traded, but it's never said about someone who's like for sure not being traded. You know what I mean? Like the Yankees don't have to come out tomorrow and say we're not trading Aaron Judge. But if they
Right.
came out and said we're not looking to move Gleyber Torres, it's like, yeah, because they might actually look to move Gleyber Torres.
Well, I think it was just him responding to. I think it was just him responding to a question, and
and you only the only had if somebody asked the Yankees, "Are you looking to trade Aaron Judge?" They wouldn't acknowledge it with a response. That's my
well,
point.
it's
And
more
if
of
you're
like,
acknowledging it with a response, it means that it's at least being considered. That's all.
sure, yeah, yeah, that's fair. And you look at it now. I mean, Houston's only 6 games back from Seattle in first place.
And
It's
that's the
really not.
problem. MLB's trade deadline is so early. Who knows if anyone gets traded, right? Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
trade deadline is so early, and there's so many teams making the playoffs these days, and the league hasn't adjusted yet. So I don't know if anyone's getting traded.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw a lot of teams last year. Like, who was a buyer that shouldn't have been? Oh yeah, the Angels, right? The Angels were buyers, and everyone was like, "What the hell are you doing? You guys are terrible." And they tried, right? They
Well,
tried
I'll
to make
tell
it
you
work.
why, because they figured, hey, let's get Otani and Trout into a playoff series and roll the dice, see what happens. It's the last time we're going to have that.
Yeah,
Didn't work,
yeah,
but it was the right move.
yeah. I don't
They
blame them for
probably should
that,
have
right? But
traded Otani at the deadline. They
we see that all
probably
the time. Yeah, right. They could have
like
gotten.
what kind of offer would that have been for a half a season of Shohei Otani? And also
And
because think about it, let's say you're the Yankees and you're like, man, we're never going to get Prime off of the West Coast in free agency. But if we get him in here for the
bring
next
them
2
over there.
months
Yeah. Hmm.
and we show him how great New York is, whatever, it's,
I mean, they did trade
I-
away quite a bit for Juan Soto, right? Michael King's been phenomenal in San Diego.
yeah, but it's also been a full year and the Yankees were bad last year. So like
Yeah.
Michael King had a terrible start tonight, by the way.
Did he? Oh, I missed it.
Yeah. Can't get them all.
Yeah. No, you can't. That's the game. It's the
Are we
game.
done?
I think so. You got anything else?
No, I didn't, but I thought you were still in the middle of something.
No, no.
I want
I'm.
to check to see if the Michael King
I see that the
start.
Cubs beat the Braves, so that's a good way to end this. Mike
Michael
Tauchman with
King
another
at San
home
Diego.
run.
Yeah, San Diego. I told you they're
Mhm.
hot. San Diego lost to the Rockies 8-0.
How'd Tovar do? Brenton Tovar.
Give me a second. Michael
Yeah.
King, 5 1/3 innings, 8 hits, 6 earned runs. He still had 7 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings because like his stuff is stupid. Like he's on that pitching ninja account every single start. Every time he throws a ball, he's on pitching ninja. Did you see he had a full foot of arm side run the other
disgusting.
day?
Oh, it was so
stupid.
It was so disgusting.
Tovar was 1 for 4 with a strikeout. Not great.
I want to say I watched him against the Cubs recently, and yeah, it was just it was stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Of arm side run. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff.
Good stuff, dude. I'll talk to you on Sunday. See ya.
Sounds good. See ya.